Hello, AP Bio students, and welcome back to Lab Diaries from AP Bio. In this series, we will cover different lab expectations and review key labs.
This is episode 2, the write-up.
In this episode, we will discuss writing up the labs and we will cover the structure, contents of the write-up, sources to check out, expressing data with graphs, and scoring.
Structure: designing a layout for your lab notebook. Buying a notebook that fits you the best. Buy a notebook that you are most comfortable with. There are several options from computation notebooks available online to graphic notebooks you can find at your local office supply store. Color coding. Color coding your notebooks is a fun way to keep yourself organized as well as have a good source of information for the future if you plan to work in labs. In some cases, having a lab notebook can help you get a student job in college. Requirements. Some possible requirements for your lab report include setting up a layout and routine on your notebook. Designing a layout for your lab notebook. For the structure, you should design a clear layout for your lab notebook to write up all your labs. The date should be written on the upper right corner and the title centered in the upper part of a fresh page. A way to keep organized is to number your pages, which makes finding a lab later on easier. Remember, the lab write-up needs to be in black or blue ink.
Content of the write-up. What to include in your lab write-up. Setting up the problem and hypothesis. For your problem, make sure you choose something that directly relates to your lab and that is actively being tested. Always make sure to include your null hypothesis before your actual hypothesis, which claims there is no direct correlation in the variables and the problem being tested. Materials and procedures. Make sure to include every material and step that your guide dictates. Recording data. Record your newfound information as soon as it's available to have an accurate report. What most people do in order to keep their charts and text organized is they use a separate paper or a Google Doc to fastly record what is being observed. Analyzing observations. Analyze your data by using graphs or charts that display the correlation between the variables used and use them to explain why your hypothesis was or wasn't supported. Conclusion. In your conclusion, include your hypothesis, evaluate it, include key results you obtained, and reflect on errors that you possibly made during the lab. Background information. Make sure to include your background information in your report, including what you previously knew about the tested topic and what you learned from researching before the lab.
Sources to check out. Sources that you can use for reliable background information are lab packets and handouts, Campbell textbook, AP Classroom, case studies or publications. Make sure to always cite your sources.
Expressing data with graphs. Learning better ways to display observed data. The title and labeling your axis. Always title your data displays, including graphs. Commonly used names for them is the relationship they display. So, if for example, a graph shows the growth of bacterium over time when a substance is introduced, then a good name would be bacterium populations in correlation to a substance A, or substance A's impact on colonies. Choose the best fit for your axis. Always label your Y and X axis and what they represent. When graphing a time-based relationship, always label the x-axis as your time axis. Scaling accurately. Make sure the axes are split in an accurate, even manner, especially in line graphs, where differences in scaling could shift the whole graph. Different types of graphs. Choose the best fit for your data. If graphing something including time, a line graph would be the best fit. If displaying a direct comparison based on amounts, consider a bar graph instead. Color coding graphs can add color to your report and make it easier to distinguish in between other lines or bars. If for some reason you can't add color, consider changing the patterns in the lines to make it easier to read. Always remember to include a key with the colors or patterns and what they represent.
Scoring. Understanding the scoring guideline is the key to getting a good grade on your lab write-ups. Throughout the year, there will be different grading systems like self-grade where you grade your own lab, or it will be graded by your peers or your teacher. Be prepared and don't wait until the last minute. The write-up requires you to analyze your lab and can be time-consuming, and giving yourself enough time to write a good lab report will increase the quality of your work. Make sure all requirements are met. Requirement sample. This is a general model for writing the lab reports in your lab notebook. You can pause the video to read the slide, but the general structure and things that will be required are the date, title, problem, hypothesis, and materials. Some more requirements are the procedure, which must be numbered, the data, this includes charts, tables, and graphs, analysis that explains your data, and a conclusion that refers back to the hypothesis and references the data mentioned. I hope our advice can improve your lab experience.
In the following episode, we will discuss equations in the AP Bio curriculum.
Thank you for listening.